Hello friends, welcome to QApedia, and this is our blog qapedia.com. Today the topic that we are going to cover is JavaScript tutorial arrow functions in JavaScript, and the subtopics that we will cover are what is arrow function, rules for declaration of arrow function, types of arrow functions, and then there are different types of arrow functions with no parameter, no return type, with parameter and no return type, with no parameters but return type, with parameters and with return type, with only one parameter without any parenthesis, with return type without using return keyword, arrow function with object parameter, arrow function with parameters with default values, using math operation in arrow function, and then arrow function with VarArgs. So all these different types of arrow functions we are going to discuss, and then summary of the session. So what is arrow function? So in the last session we had discussed about anonymous function. An anonymous function is a type of function which is having no name, which does not have any name. So arrow function is also a type of anonymous function. So it's quite obvious that arrow function will not have any name. Arrow function will also not have any name. So what are the rules for declaration of arrow function? So the first rule is we should not give any name to the function, right? Which is a rule for anonymous function as well. Second thing, we should not use function keyword. Now in case of anonymous function, we were using function keyword, but now in case of arrow function, we should not use function keyword. So in place of function keyword, what should we use? We should use arrow key in arrow function. Okay, we will have to use arrow key in arrow function, and we should assign the function to a variable so that we can call that function during runtime. Same thing we used to do in anonymous function as well. So let's see it with an example, and let's see the example for an anonymous function first, and then we will see the example for an arrow function. Now what is how do we write an anonymous function? We write function keyword, then the parenthesis, and then in the curly braces we write the definition of the function, and then this complete anonymous function is assigned to a variable or to a constant, and then with the help of this constant we call the function. So we will do the same thing. So we will write this particular this is how an anonymous function works. Now in case of arrow function, what happens? We will remove this function keyword. Okay, so after removing this function keyword, we have to use arrow key after this particular parenthesis. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's write one anonymous function, and then after that we will write an arrow function. Okay, let's see that. So let's go to our code editor, and we'll see that. Let's go to Replit. So let's write our anonymous function here, and what we can do, we can simply copy this anonymous function and we'll paste it here, and then let's run it. So this is how anonymous function will work. We are using a function keyword, then parenthesis, then our code, and then variable assigning, and then calling it. Now we want to write arrow function, so we will remove this function keyword. Now we are getting one error that this particular thing is expired. This is called arrow keyword. Okay, so we will write this. Now we see that there is no error. There is no error, and we can simply do one thing. We can simply click on run, and we can call it. We can call it multiple times, and if we want, we can just change it. We can simply write one more sentence here, and that will be QApedia, and let's run it. Now hello world and QApedia is getting printed. So this is how arrow function is written. Okay, now we can pass an arrow function as an argument as well to the higher order functions. Same like anonymous function. An anonymous function also can be passed as an argument to higher order function. So we have seen some higher order array function in one of our previous sessions, and we had seen that how do we pass anonymous function inside those higher order array functions. Let's see now that how can we pass an arrow function as an argument to an higher order array function. Okay, so let's take an example of for each and see it here. So let's say we have one array with us. Okay, and this is our array. Let num equals to this, and then we will call num dot for each. For each is an higher order array function, and we will write parenthesis for that. And after that, what are we going to do? We will simply copy this complete sentence here, and we will paste it here, and then we will remove this particular thing. And now what do we want to do? We have to pass one element here, so we will pass a element here, and then we want to print that particular element. So we will say console dot log a. Now you might think, what is this a element? So see it properly. This for each loop we are using on a num. And what is num? Num is an array. An array will have elements. So this a is the element of array. Okay, and if it is not clear, then just run it, and then hello world and QA is being printed. Now we are printing the elements of array 3, 5, 1, 2, 4, and we are printing it with this particular statement with using for each loop, for each function. If you want, we can print a cross a also. Let's simply run it, and now you see we are printing 9, 25, 1, 4, 16, which is the square of each element of array. Okay, this is how our array function is passed as an argument to any higher order function. Now, how many types of arrow functions we have? So we have arrow functions with no parameters and no return type, arrow function with parameters and no return type, arrow function with no parameters but with return type, arrow functions with parameters and with return type, arrow function with only one parameter without any parenthesis, arrow function with return type without using return keyword, arrow function with an object, arrow function with parameters with default values, and then we'll use math operations, and then we'll use arrow function with VarArgs. So let's see the first one, arrow function with no parameters and no return type. So this we have already seen, but let's this particular example was that only. Arrow function without any parameters, no parameters are there, and this is how our arrow function works. And we can write here one more statement here, and that could be 2 plus 3. Okay, and we can print it. 2 plus 3, 5 is being printed. We can simply remove this array function, we can simply clear it, and then hello world, QApedia, and 5. Okay, like this our arrow function with no parameters and no return type will work. Then we have arrow function with parameters and no return type. So inside this parenthesis we will have to pass some parameters. So we'll pass some parameters, and we'll change the name of the function. We'll keep the name as add, and we'll call it here add. And now here what will we do? We'll add a and b, and then here we'll pass 2, 3. So we have written one function, and we are passing some parameters, and we are adding those two parameters, and then we are printing. Now function is having some parameters, right? So whenever we will call this function, we have to pass some values there. So that's why we are passing some values there, and then if suppose we will run it, it will pass 5. If suppose I'll pass here 3, 3, then it is going to print 6. Now let's do one thing, let's write it multiple times, and in place of 3, 3 we will write here 6, 6, and then we will write here 5, 6, or we will write here 4, 3, or we will write here 30, comma 30, or we'll write here 300 comma 300, and then if suppose we clear it and if we run it, then 6, 12, 11, 7, 60, these values are printing. How many times we are calling it, that many times this function is being called, and addition of those two parameters is being printed. Like this we can work with an arrow function with parameters and no return type. Now here we are passing two parameters. So this above example is with two parameters. We can see an example with only one parameter also. So let's do one thing. Let's just remove it and just give one parameter, and here we'll change the name square, and what will we do? We'll print square and we'll write here square, and only one parameter will print, and clear it off. And so square of 3 is 9. We are having only one parameter, so we are passing also one parameter. Now if suppose I will pass here 30, then it is going to print 900. If I'll pass here 5, then it will print 25. If I'll pass here 50, then it will print 2500. Like this our arrow function with parameters and no return type will work. Now this type of function we can pass to a higher order array function for each. We have just seen that example, that how do we pass an arrow function to a for each function. Just now we have seen that example. So we can see it again. So let's see, we have an array, and what are we doing? We are simply printing the value of that array, and then num dot for each, and inside this parenthesis we can simply pass this value. We can pass this particular arrow function, and that's it. If suppose I will run it now, I will run it. So first it will print 2500 because square of 50 is 2500. Then we have an array, and this statement will print the original array number is this, and then for this particular array we are calling for each function, and we are this element is being passed, and these elements square is being printed. So square of 3 is 9, square of 5 is 25, square of 1 is 1, square of 2 is 4, and square of 4 is 16. These values are being printed. This is how our arrow function with parameters and no return type will work. Then we have arrow function with no parameters but with return type. So there will be no parameter, but this function will return something. So we have to use a keyword called return. And what will it return? So it is going to return, suppose 3 cross 3 square it will return, and because it does not have any parameter, so we don't have to pass also any parameter. Now let's just remove it and clear it and then run it. Now what is happening? We are calling this function, but nothing is being printed because console.log statement is not used. What we have to do, because this particular function is returning something, so when we will call this function, we have to store that return value somewhere. So we will store that value here, const s is equals to square, and then we will print this value console.log s and that let's run it, and we can see 9 is being printed. If place of 3 I'll say 5 cross 5, and then if suppose now I will print, it is going to print 25 for me, right? So this is how our arrow function with no parameters but with return type will work. Then we have arrow function with parameters and with return type. So the function will have parameters as well, and it is going to return some value also. So what will we do? Again same thing, a cross a, we are passing here a, and this time we have to pass some parameters. We will pass parameter as 5 and then we will run it. So it is printing 25, 5 ka square 25. Then we will print here, pass here 6, so it is printing 36. If suppose we will pass here 7, then square of 7 is 49, it will print 49. So this is how our function, arrow function with parameters and with return type will work. Now this example, we have seen example with one parameter, we can see an example with two parameters also, and that will be pretty simple, like pass two parameters and then whatever operation you want to do, a plus b, a multiplied by b, you can do and then you can call it. So that's not a big thing. Then this type of arrow function we can pass as an argument also to an higher order array function map. Okay, so let's see that example, and let's take one array. This is our array items and these are the elements of array. We are printing those, we are printing that array. Now what will we do? We will use map function, items dot map. Okay, and inside this particular map, what will we do? We will simply pass this particular function, copy and paste, that's it. And now nothing, just run it. So for 7 it is printing 49. Oh yeah, so again it is not printing these values, right? It is only printing console original array value. So what will happen, because we are returning something, we have to store some this value, or we have to store this value somewhere. So we'll store it, constant n is equals to this, and then what will we do? We'll simply print console dot log n. Let's do one thing, let's run it. Yeah, so 49 is being printed for 7 and then original array is this, and then one new array has come, and for that particular array the elements are square of each element for this. So we can print here new array is, and clear it and then run it. So yeah, this is 49, for this it is printed, and this is our original array and this is our new array. Okay, that's how our map function can be utilized. In a map function we can pass this type of arrow function as an argument. Now arrow function with only one parameter without any parenthesis. Now this is very interesting thing. So you can see we have only one parameter here. Okay, so we can simply remove this parenthesis and now we can run it, and you see it is working fine. There is no problem at all. So if an arrow function is having only one parameter, you don't have to use any parenthesis for parameter. It's very simple. Okay, like this also you can use. Now arrow function with return type but without using return keyword. So here I am using return keyword and it is asking me don't use return keyword, and then also our arrow function will return something. So let's remove this return keyword. I will simply remove it and then run it, and it is not returning anything, it is undefined. Then how is it possible that it will return something? So we have to remove this curly braces and then run it, and then we can see it is returning the perfect value. And what we can do, we can simply write it in one single line and then it will look better. That's it. So you don't have to write in curly braces, then you don't have to mention return keyword, and it should have only one line and all. Then arrow function with an object parameter. Okay, now how does it work? So first of all, we must know what an object is. Object is something which will have a key value pair kind of thing. So suppose we want to take some information of some class from a school, then we can write some key values like what is the name of class. So we'll put some value, then how many number of students do we have, we'll put some value, what is the name of school, we'll put some value, and then an object will be created. And using this particular object, we can get the values of all these parameters. And for that, how will we create an arrow function, we will see that thing. Okay. So let's create an object first, and this is going to be our object. So we'll create this object. So constant, or to say class info, now first thing that will pass will be the, oh man, class name, and we'll say first. And then second thing, we have to pass here number of students, let's say 10. Then school name, so let's say ABC school, we'll write here excellence. Okay, that's it, our object has been created. Now let's create one arrow function, and that arrow function, yeah, student info, and for that we'll give one parameter, and in that parameter will pass ci arrow, and what do we want to return, that value we will write here. Okay, and that value we will write in backstab key. So we'll write here number of students in the class right here dollar and curly braces, and inside curly braces we'll write ci dot class name, curly braces in the class R, again we'll write dollar and curly braces and ci dot number of students. Okay, this much. In set, that's how we'll write. Now simple meaning of this particular, yeah, fine. So we created one arrow function. Okay, inside this arrow function we are passing one object, and using this object, what is this object, this object will have some key values, and using those keys of that particular object, like ci dot class name, then ci dot number of student, then ci dot school name, using those key value pairs we can print some statement here. Okay, then we are calling this arrow function student info, and inside this we are passing the actual object name class info. Now if suppose I will run this, then it is printing number of students in the class first are 10 in the excellence school. This is what we wanted to print. We could have written it directly here inside and we can print it, but what do we want? We want to print dynamic values using the object. Okay, we want to pass only one parameter which is an object, and using that particular object we want to print the dynamic value. So this is how our arrow function with object parameter also works. Okay, now arrow function with parameters with default values. Okay, so that's it. Now we have some arrow function here. Okay, and we have some parameters, and it is having some parameters like student and class info. Okay, student we are providing guest, and then class info is having some default value no. Okay, now what is the use of default values, right? Why do we want some default values parameters? What is the use of all that? Okay, if you want to know what is the use of all this, then we can see it now. So let's see this. How does it work? Let's see some example here. Okay, so this is our arrow function. Okay, student is guest, class info no. First, what is this? Class message constant, and we'll write here message is equals to and here we'll write student is guest, comma, then class is no, and then we'll pass an arrow function here, and then we want to print some message. Okay, so what will be the message that we are printing here? Okay, we'll write backstep key, no, not here, backtick key we'll use. In this backtick key, no, what will we write here? We will write here student is in, Control C, copy it here. Yeah, and this is how we will write our message. And now what do we want to do? We want to simply call this function. So we'll call it, and we'll see some values being John is in JS class. JS means JavaScript class or any class. Or I'll write here JavaScript class. So you might think that what exactly we have done? We have created an arrow function, and we have two parameters here, and the name of that function is message. When we are calling it, we are passing two parameters. So what is so special about this function? So the special thing about this function is that we can call this function without any parameters also. Simple. We are having two parameters, but we don't have to give any parameters while calling this function. And when we don't give any parameter, then what happens? When we are giving some parameter, it is giving a value John is in JavaScript class, but when we are not giving any parameters, then we are getting a message guest is in no class. So guest is the default value of student, no is the default value of class, and the default values are getting printed. So this is the use of parameters with default values in an arrow function. That's what is our arrow function with default values. We can see one more example here. This is an example we can see here, and you can write here constant sum is equals to two parameters we are writing here, a plus b, and we'll give some value to b equals to 200 and a equals to 100. That's very simple. And what will we do? We'll write here console dot log, and we can write here sum, and that's it. And we can call it one more time here, and this time no parameters we will give, simple. And let's run it. If we will run it, first time we are giving parameter 1 2, so 1 2 addition of 1 2 is being printed 3. Second time when we are calling, we are not giving any parameters, so the default values 100 and 200 are being added, and then those are being printed 3 and 300. Like this our arrow function with parameters with default value works. Now using math operations in arrow function. So we can write a function here where this is our arrow function. We are passing 3 values here, and then we are trying to find out the maximum value from those 3 values, and we are using math.max function. For that we are utilizing that particular function for that. So we can write our arrow function for that also. So let's do one thing. Const maxwell is equals to, and we will print some values, a cross b cross c, and then what can we do? Math dot max a cross b cross c, and this value should be written. And what can we do? We can simply console dot log 1 2 3, and then we can run it. So it is printing 3 because the maximum value is 3. It is returning the maximum value, and that maximum value is being printed. If we write here 10 20 and 3, then it will return 20. If I will write here 10 20 and 30, it is going to return 30. If I will write here 100 20 and 30, it will return 100. So maximum value is being returned here. So this is how our math functions we can use in arrow function. Then arrow function with VarArgs. VarArg means array. We can pass an array also inside an arrow function. Okay. And how can we do that? So we can see an example that this is our arrow function. We are passing a simple normal value, and we are passing one array, or we are passing one vararg, and then writing arrow function. Then we are printing those two values here, and then we are calling. Okay. So let's write this. We'll write here var print is equals to, write a comma 3 dots. 3 dots means varargs, and we'll write here arr, and that's it. Arrow function, then console.log, no, and then again console.log. Yeah, so we'll print this a also, we'll print this arr also, and then we'll simply call it. So we'll simply call print and the first uh, uh, parameter is that we are passing, we will pass it as a string. The array elements are, and then we'll pass some values like 1 comma 2, yeah, something will pass, and that's it. This is how our arrow function with VarArgs works. Now let's clear it and then run it. So array elements are, and these are the array elements. So what are we doing? We are passing one normal value. It could be string, it could be number, it could be anything. We have passed a string, and then we are passing an array, and array elements are these. If we want, we can do it this way also, and this is number array elements, and then here we will pass string array elements. And what can we pass here? We can pass here apple, mango, and watermelon, oranges, something like this, and then clear it and then print. So number array elements are these, and string array elements are these. Like this also, we can pass any value in our arrow function, where we have to pass a vararg value or an array value. Okay, like this arrow function with vararg will work. Now let's see the summary of the session. So we have covered below topics in our session, today's session. What is arrow function, types of arrow function, and these are the different types of arrow function that we have covered: with no parameters, no return type; with parameters and no return type; with no parameters but with return type; with parameters and with return type; with only one parameter without any parenthesis; with return type without using return keyword; arrow function with object; arrow function with parameters with default values; and then using math operations in arrow function; and at the end, arrow function with VarArgs. These are the topics that we have covered in today's session, and that's it in the session. Thank you very much, guys.